Justice delayed is justice denied. This adage has never rung truer than in the case of the Central Park Five, now known as the Exonerated Five, a story that shook the foundations of the American criminal justice system and exposed deep-seated issues of racial profiling, coerced confessions, and systemic inequality. On the evening of April 19, 1989, New York City was a city on edge. Crime rates were soaring, fueled by the crack epidemic, and fear gripped the streets. That night, a group of teenagers entered Central Park, and chaos ensued. By the early hours of April 20th, a 28-year-old investment banker, Trisha Meili, was found brutally beaten, raped, and left for dead in a ravine. The crime sent shockwaves through the city and the nation, sparking outrage and a desperate hunt for justice. But what followed was not justice. It was a miscarriage of it. 5 Black and Latino teenagers, Antron McCray, Kevin Richardson, Yusef Salaam, Raymond Santana, and Korey Wise, were wrongfully convicted of the crime. They spent years in prison before the truth emerged, revealing a story of coercion, racial bias, and a justice system that failed them. This is the story of the Central Park Jogger case, a case that became a symbol of systemic injustice and a rallying cry for criminal justice reform. On that fateful night, dozens of teenagers roamed Central Park, some committing assaults and robberies. Trisha Meili, an avid jogger, was attacked while running near the 102nd Street crossing. She was found hours later, naked, gagged, and tied with severe injuries. A fractured skull, hypothermia, and a loss of 75 to 80% of her blood. She remained in a coma for 12 days, her survival uncertain. The police quickly zeroed in on a group of teenagers who had been in the park that night. Under intense pressure to solve the case, detectives interrogated the 5 boys for hours without legal representation. Despite inconsistencies in their confessions and a lack of physical evidence linking them to the crime, they were charged and convicted. The trial was a media circus, fueled by sensational headlines and public outrage. The boys, aged 14 to 16, were portrayed as a wolf pack engaged in wilding, a term that became synonymous with urban violence. Their coerced confessions, obtained after hours of interrogation, were the centerpiece of the prosecution's case. Antron McCray, just 15 years old, confessed after being told he could go home if he admitted to being present. Yusef Salaam, also 15, was threatened with violence and told his fingerprints were found on the victim. Korey Wise, the oldest at 16, was the only one tried as an adult and served the longest sentence. Despite the lack of DNA evidence linking them to the crime, all 5 were convicted and sentenced to prison terms ranging from 7 to 13 years. In 2002, the case took a dramatic turn. Matias Reyes, a convicted serial rapist and murderer, confessed to the crime. DNA evidence confirmed his involvement, and he provided details that matched the crime scene. Reyes stated he acted alone, and the timeline of events supported his claim. The convictions of the Exonerated Five were vacated, but the damage had been done. They had lost years of their lives, their reputations, and their youth to a system that had failed them. The Exonerated Five sued New York City for malicious prosecution, racial discrimination, and emotional distress. In 2014, the city settled for $41 million, but no amount of money could undo the harm they endured. Their story has become a catalyst for criminal justice reform. The case highlighted how vulnerable juveniles are to coercion during interrogations, while also shedding light on the deep-seated racial biases that influence their portrayal in the media. Advances in forensic science, particularly DNA evidence, have since exonerated hundreds of wrongfully convicted individuals, further emphasizing the need for systemic change. Today, the Exonerated Five are advocates for justice reform. Yusef Salaam serves on the board of the Innocence Project and was elected to the New York City Council in 2023, while Korey Wise donated part of his settlement to the Korey Wise Innocence Project at the University of Colorado. Their story has inspired documentaries, books, and even a Netflix series When They See Us, bringing their ordeal to a global audience. The Central Park Jogger case is a stark reminder of the flaws in our justice system. It underscores the need for recording interrogations to prevent coercion and ensure transparency, while also calling for reforms in juvenile justice to protect young suspects from manipulation. Addressing racial bias is equally crucial to ensure fairness and equality in the legal process. As Yusef Salaam poignantly stated, "We were just babies. We didn't know what was happening." Their story is a call to action, a demand for a justice system that lives up to its name. The Exonerated Five endured unimaginable pain, but their resilience has turned their tragedy into a force for change. Their fight for justice continues to inspire, reminding us that the pursuit of truth and fairness is a battle worth fighting. As we reflect on their story, let us ask ourselves, how can we ensure that no one else suffers the same fate? The answer lies in learning from the past and building a future where justice is truly blind. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Martin Luther King, Jr.